Hey, before we start, wanted to let you know that in this tutorial we'll be using this printable pattern. Everything is already measured out to make this tutorial easy for everyone, whether you've been sewing for years or have very little experience. Using this pattern and this video, you should be good to go. And there's even an extra large size pattern for those with a little larger noggins. The patterns are completely free to download from my website, Zaccura.com. The link is in the description box. And be sure to post your completed masks on social media with the hashtag ZackyMask. I'd love to see what you make. Hello, I'm Zaccura and welcome back to my channel, and today we're stepping away from illustration for a moment to make some DIY cloth face masks. I'll be taking you through the steps to make this mask, first using a sewing machine, and then also how to hand stitch it together for those who do not have a sewing machine. And do not worry, both ways are very simple. I really believe that anyone can do this. If you think the hand stitching will be a huge headache and take forever, do not worry, it's actually very fast and very easy. And near the end of this video, I'll also show some variations you can do for different kinds of straps in case you don't like the kind that loops around your ears. I've got you. But before we dive right into the tutorial, I did want to mention that these masks are not meant to be used as or replace medical grade face masks. I do not have any sort of certification for that kind of stuff, nor do these masks have any sort of filter or filter pocket. So keeping all of that in mind, today I'll be showing you guys how to make your own cloth face mask that is machine washable, reversible, and pretty darn fashionable to boot. The materials you're going to need are the ZackyMask pattern printed and cut out, some breathable fabric. This is a double-sided mask, so I'll personally be using two kinds of fabric, a patterned cotton for the outside and this very loose jersey for the inside. If you're just making this for yourself, feel free to use recycled fabrics such as t-shirts and pants and bed sheets, whatever you can find. Next, you'll need some elastic, or you can also just use string, scissors, some pens to mark stuff, and a needle and thread, or use a sewing machine. Step 1 is to cut your fabric. So you're going to want to fold your fabric right sides together and then draw on your mask pattern onto your fabric. I like my mask to be the shorter size, so I'm cutting my pattern at the second line. Also, if your fabric is all creased like mine, you'll probably want to iron it smooth before drawing your pattern, but I'm lazy and I like to live dangerously, so I didn't. After you've drawn your pattern, cut out your fabric, making sure to cut through both layers. Do not worry about adding any extra seam allowance around your line. I've already included the seam allowance into the pattern, so just cut along the drawn line. Repeat the folding, drawing, and cutting thing with your second fabric. And you should end up with 4 cut pieces of fabric, or 2 sets. Now we're going to start sewing. And before you go, oh no, Zaccura, sewing is hard, I stink at it, I tried sewing a hacky sack 10 years ago and it was a disaster. Stop. It's not hard. Even if it is, it's not. You can do it. Feel encouraged. For this first mask, I will be using a sewing machine, but you can also easily and quickly sew this mask together by hand, and I'll show you how to in a bit, so don't worry. But the steps will pretty much be the same whether you're using a sewing machine or doing this by hand. So taking the first set of fabric, you're going to keep the right sides together and sew along the round edge. You can pin it if you like, if it makes it easier for you, but again, I'm living dangerously. If you're curious how much seam allowance I've left you guys, I don't even really know myself. I haven't exactly measured it, but it's about a standard 3/8 of an inch. But really, if you sew it a little smaller or a little bigger, it's not going to make a huge difference, so do not worry too much. And once you're finished with your first set of fabric, you're going to want to do the same thing with your second set. Again, keep the right sides of the fabric together. At this point, you should now have 2 separate mask-like things. Now what you're going to do is, once again, making sure the right sides, aka the pretty sides of your fabrics, are facing each other, you're going to line up your 2 mask layers together. If you didn't notice already, the round part of this pattern is not symmetrical. There is a top and a bottom to this mask. and the part that's at the bottom, where your chin would go, bumps out a little bit more. So when putting the two layers together, just make sure that they're both oriented the right way so that one of them isn't upside down, and they should snugly fit into each other. Now before sewing it up, I'm going to cut my elastic. I'm using thin cord elastic. It is a little harder to sew in, so feel free to use flat elastic or even just use a strip of some stretchy fabric or just some ribbon or string. You need something to hang around your ears, so use whatever you have. You're going to want to roughly measure how much you need. Here I'm cutting two 7-inch pieces. And if you are using cord elastic like me, you're going to want to tie a knot at each end of the elastic. This is a safety measure. In case it doesn't sew in very securely, the knot will hopefully catch on the stitches and keep it from popping out of the mask when you pull on it. I learned this the hard way. It's very sad. Don't let it happen to you. Next, you're going to want to insert your elastic loop side in. And in this case, I am going to pin it in place because if you're living dangerously too much, at some point it's going to catch up to you. Now you're going to sew all along the edge of your mask, but do not sew it closed. Leave a hole. Also, whenever you get to one of your elastic ends, just be sure to stitch over it a few times to make sure it's secure. Once it's all sewed up, turn your mask right side out through the little hole you left. And look, it's a mask! You did it! At this point, it's a good idea to try it on or have whoever you're making it for try it on to see if it fits correctly, because if there's any horrible, embarrassing mistakes, you can still turn it inside out again and fix stuff. I thankfully did not make any horrible, embarrassing mistakes, so it's all good. Once it's all good, the only thing left to do is to top stitch all around. And this part is actually totally optional. If that sewing ability encouragement from earlier wasn't very strong, and you doubt your ability to top stitch very cleanly, then just skip it. Your mask will be a little poofier, but it's totally fine. However, if you skip the top stitching, you will need to sew that hole closed by hand. So, pick your poison. And that is it. Your mask is finito. I know this mask may not be the simplest DIY mask out there, but I think it's way more fashionable and comfortable when you wear it because it's really shaped to your face and it's smooth. Those pleated masks can look very, like a surgical mask, obviously. I just think this way, this mask looks a little better, a little more fashionable. I don't know, you tell me. Now, for those who do not have a sewing machine or just don't know how to use one or really just don't want to use one, now I'm going to show you guys how to hand sew this mask together. For this mask, just to show you guys, I'm going to be using the extra large mask pattern. The size is perfect for the dads in our lives. It's a fact. Dads have big noggins. Okay, but all joking aside, if the smaller pattern is too small for you, then this should be perfect. Or even if the smaller mask does fit you, but you just want to have a bigger mask that really covers your chin and your cheeks, then this is great too. So after you've cut all your fabric following the steps from earlier, you're going to take your thread and thread your needle. You can do this. If you're struggling to thread your needle, almost every single thread and needle kit comes with these little threaders, which look almost like a little tinfoil coin with a wire loop attached to the bottom. That is a threader, so just poke that through the hole of your needle and then put your thread through the bigger hole and pull it through and figure it out. Then take both ends of your thread and tie a big ol' knot. Now pull your thread through your fabric and do a few stitches in the same place to secure it. And now you're ready to start sewing. And to do this, all you're going to do is go in and out, and in, and out. And essentially accordion up your fabric onto your needle. And once your needle is full, just pull your thread through and flatten out your fabric. And just keep going. And once you get to the end, make sure your fabric is nice and flat, do a few stitches in place, and then tie it off and cut. And you're ready for your next edge. This is probably the easiest way of hand stitching. Admittedly, it is not the most secure technique. I wouldn't use it for projects that would have a ton of tension pulling on the seams, but it's great for this mask because there is almost no tension pulling apart the seams when you wear it. And of course, just like with the sewing machine, once you get to the part where your elastics are, do a few stitches to secure it in place. You know, it doesn't have to be super neat, just hack at it, make sure that it's on there nice and good, and ta-da! Looks just as good. When I do the hand stitching technique, I usually do not bother with the top stitching because top stitching by hand is a drag, so instead I'm just going to invisible hand stitch up the hole. And to do this, you're going to take your thread, pull your needle through the underside of the edge of the fabric so that it hides the knot. Then you're going to go in and out. Be careful to only sew through one layer each time so that your stitches don't show on the outside of your mask. Once you get to the end, do a couple stitches to secure, tie off, and cut, and you're done. Now that wasn't so hard, was it? A nice alternative to top stitching if you want your mask to be flatter is to just iron it, and it should look really good. And now that you know how to make the Zaccura mask, I wanted to also show some variations on the strap. If you don't like the elastic going around your ear, you can also make a strap that goes around your head. For example, here in this case, I did not sew in the elastic when I made the mask. Then I made some buttonholes on the outside of the mask. I also did another mask in the same way where instead of sewing buttonholes, I put rivets, but I know not many people probably have rivets laying around their house like me because I'm a weirdo and I have everything in my house. So the buttonholes work really well. And with this, you can attach any kind of straps that you want, and it can even be removable. And in the case of this extra large mask I just showed you, what I did is create these loops on the sides of the mask and then pull one very long piece of elastic through both sides and created a double strap that goes around your head. So there are a lot of possibilities for customization with this mask, and I'd encourage you to experiment and have fun with making your mask perfect for you. And whichever way you prefer, I hope you will give this mask project a shot. And if you do, I would love to see it, so post it on social media with the hashtag #ZaccuraMask. I will also be hosting a Sew Along live stream this Saturday where I'll make one of these masks live right here on YouTube, and you guys can follow along and also ask me any questions you may have. In that live stream, I will be sewing by hand, so you guys can see that more detailed, I guess. So I hope you will join us. That stream will be happening again this Saturday, April 11th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll have the link to the waiting page in the description box, so be sure to set your reminders. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and if you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up before you go and subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. And also drop a comment letting me know how you doing, how's quarantine life been treating ya, and do you think you're gonna make the Zacky mask. Once again, the patterns used in this video are free to download from my website. If you're subscribed to my newsletter, then you should have actually already received the patterns in the last email. But if you're not subscribed, it's still totally 100% free. I want everyone to have access to this. You will need to provide your email, but do not worry. The email you provide on the download page is only used to send you the pattern that you asked for. It does not sign you up to anything. It does not add you to the newsletter. You will never be sent spam, I promise. The link to the download page is in the description box. But if you do want to be notified of my upcoming projects, shop updates, and occasional freebies like these, then you can subscribe to my newsletter, you know, if you want to. While you're there, you can also check out my shop, or maybe purchase my book or ebook version. Or, you know, you can also follow me on social media. All the links to everything is, you guessed it, in the description box. I hope you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, and taking care of each other. I'm wishing you all well, and I'll see you soon. Don't forget to say hi on Saturday's live stream. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, and always throw away used tissues. See ya!